Odissi in 96 hours, which is kind of like a crash course in Odissi. We cover the basics. You don't have to know any kind of dance to enroll. You can just begin without any training as long as you're following along and you've registered for a certain number of hours per day and you're doing that regularly. So as long as you do it, you'll be able to get through fine and actually learn a lot, become the best version of yourself. So we have a body conditioning class series of videos within that same course, Odissi in 96 hours, in which we give movement training, which is inspired by several different movement disciplines such as ballet basics, Kalari, Battu, Natyasala, core conditioning, Pilates, yoga. So it's like a combination of movement training in which the dancer is able to learn how to move each limb isolatedly, balance training, strengthening, flexibility. So any fitness training that a dancer, core, thighs, any kind of fitness training that any dancer will need for any kind of dance form actually, that is given in the body conditioning classes. These are accompanied with theory classes, so any theory about tala, raga, or concepts and stories that you need to know, that is also given along with the Odissi in 96 hours course. Then we have the repertoire or the pedagogy, first is pedagogy, in which we cover some basic steps. So it's like learning a new language, you know, learning dance is a bit body language basically. You're learning a repository or a collection of body language that is developed over centuries and has accumulated into this dance form, which speaks a lot about that culture. It's like an ethos for that culture. So you learn these basic steps in which you learn basic tala, like 4 beats, 5 beats, 6 beats, 7 beats, 8 beats, 9 beats, 10 beats, and you learn them in different steps, in different foot positions, different hand positions and mudras and gestures, different torso positions. It overall forms a full bhangi. The tribhangi and choka positions are the basics of Odissi dance, which are based on Lord Jagannath. Choka position is that square position and tribhangi is that S-curve form and time and space, that curved threefold bending form of Krishna that we're all in love with. So these steps kind of form the words with which you form sentences. Then you put 2 or 3 steps together in different beats, in different speeds, and you form a sentence. And then you put a few sentences together and you form a short paragraph, which is called an arasa. And then you put a few arasas together and it forms a Pallavi. And if you put Abhinaya or emotions into it, it becomes an emotive piece, because usually most steps are actually in their default mode flavorless, and you flavor them according to the Abhinaya that is being used in, as you will see today. Abhinaya is like the expressions or the story that you're trying to tell. You're trying to tell what happened. So you're going to flavor those default movements with an expression, with a mood, and you give it a color. Basically, that is what the audience experiences. So once you learn the basics well, so we see how the student is picking up, if they're able to put together a few steps on a short dance phrase and arasa that we create in class in first speed, second speed, third speed, then we see that the dancer is starting to develop their understanding of a style of Odissi, of their style of Odissi. If they don't have to be directed very much anymore, that, you know, this is the corrections that you have, and they understand the style and they bring it through into the new choreographies that we do in the moment, the short arasas, then we understand that they're ready for items now. And the Odissi repertoire is very beautiful. It has Mangalacharan, which is the first item of the Odissi repertoire, short introduction to Odissi. And it's basically invoking auspiciousness, and it's invoking the presence of Lord Jagannath. So you sing Kadachit Kalindi is the bhajan that is accompanied with that Namami Mangalacharanam, and you enter with flowers and you worship the deity of Lord Jagannath. You offer articles of worship, you offer obeisances, and then you do a Bhumi Pranam, which is taking permission and offering respects and asking forgiveness from Mother Earth, because you're going to dance on her body. And then there's Ishtadev Vandana, in which you are going to pray to Lord Ganesha, or basically a deva, for the completion of the sequences to come successfully without any obstacles. And it ends in a Sabha Pranam, in which you offer your obeisances to the Lord, the Guru, and the audience. The next item in the Odissi repertoire, as envisioned by the gurus, is a sthai or a battu. And so it's like as if built on the motif of entering a temple. So first you do pranam from outside, and then you see that outside the temple there's all these carved sculptures in which they're standing in choka position, tribhangi positions, and they're playing instruments. So the veena, the mardala, the manjira, all of these different sculptural positions are weaved into a dance. So you're doing different footwork with these hand positions and in different rhythms, in different speeds, and it becomes sthai or battu. So basically it's an understanding and purification of the limbs. So in that particular item, the dancer perfects her choka and tribhangi understanding and the understanding of space with respect to her limbs and what looks aesthetically beautiful upon her according to her physique. So the third item is then called a Pallavi. Now in a Pallavi, the whole point of a Pallavi is to attract the audience's heart. And why are you trying to attract it? Because unless you have grabbed someone's attention, you cannot give Krishna to them, you cannot talk about Krishna to them. So Pallavis are very, very beautiful. They're strung on beautiful ragas, Vajrakanti, Hamsadhvani, all of these ragas. And there are very, very beautiful movements that start very small and they blossom into full, like, flowers, which is what the word Pallavi is about, is the blossoming, a new leaf which becomes beautiful and large as it grows. So at the end of a Pallavi, you end with like an explosion of tala and raga and beautiful movement, graceful torso movement, neck movements, eye movements, and footwork. So the whole purpose of the Pallavi is to completely enrapture the audience. And then you follow it with Abhinaya, which is the fourth item of the Odissi repertoire. If we were going to an Odissi recital, this is what you would see. So the fourth item is usually an Abhinaya, which is pastimes of Radha and Krishna or Lord Ram, like you'll see today, or Nrsimha. Basically, all about Krishna. You're enacting these pastimes, and it's a way for us to forget about our mundane pains and pleasures or desires, and you meditate and contemplate and give yourself to just hearing and watching these beautiful representations of the Leelas of Radha and Krishna. And that, you know, like the Abhinaya Darpan and Natyasala both say, it gives a different kind of joy to the heart, which is actually much, much greater. Brahma Paramananda Adhimatyadikam Param. So this is a verse from Abhinaya Darpan actually, which is one of the texts of dance, classical texts of dance in any of the classical dance forms of India. And in this particular verse, I believe it's like verse 7 or 8 in Abhinaya Darpan, they're talking about the first chapter. They're talking about how this dance form has the ability to bless the student or the audience with a happiness or a bliss that is much greater than even liberation. And how is that possible? Because Brahma Paramananda Adhimatyadikam Param, otherwise Naradadinam Kathamanyata. How could it attract the heart of Sri Narada? Now, if you read Narada Pancharatra, you understand. He talks about in the purport, I think Prabhupada speaks about the 5 kinds of liberations, Sarupya, Sahayujya, Salokya, all of these liberations are there. And, Narada Muni says, I don't want to do these, I just want to serve you how I have been serving you life after life. So this is the mood of Narada Muni. So we know that when they say in the scriptures that if it can attract the heart of Narada, then it can be nothing other than bhakti. Because this is smaranam basically, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevana. So this is one of the 9 processes of bhakti. It's the remembrance of the Lord, but you're doing it with your mind, body, and soul, because you cannot dance with without all of these elements. You can maybe hear a lecture and do something else, but you cannot dance and do something else at the same time. So this is actually a very intense form of absorption. And like Hanuman Krishna Maharaj says, in one of the letters he actually wrote to me, inspiring me to do this, he said that actually, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this is what he would do. He would sing and dance the glories of the Lord. And so the Abhinaya captures the heart and completely fulfills all of its desires, because you're so much in bliss just hearing the pastimes of Krishna that you forget all other miseries in life. And hence, in our Vaishnava interpretation of the Odissi repertoire, the last item is called Moksha, or liberation. And you have already reached a state of transcendence, which is much greater than liberation. So liberation is mukti pade siddhaya, you know, standing at your doorstep with folded hands, requesting a Vaishnava to please employ her in his service or her service. Mukti Devi is personally standing on the doorstep of the devotee. This is, I think, by a prayer by Bimal Mangal Thakur. And hence, this is inherent in bhakti. It is moksha laghutakrit. You know, Rupa Goswami says that actually liberation becomes very, very small compared to the joy and ecstasy of bhakti. And one of the processes of bhakti is remembering the pastimes of the Lord, which is what we're going to do today. So this is actually, in essence, the Odissi repertoire from a Vaishnava perspective, which is what we're trying to do now. We're trying to choreograph all of these bhajans by Vaishnava acharyas and teach it to our younger generation so that they have an opportunity to learn in a very devotional way, connect with devotional activities in a very natural way, in a very beautiful, engaging, fun, natural way. So if you're interested in enrolling, please contact either me at our website, Natyasala Academy, or on my Instagram page, Shatakshi Goyal 108, that's my handle, or page Prabhu at Govardhani Village. Hare Krishna.